to these sounds again, I wonder how I'll sleep. Passing out is taking off into the stubborn deep. I'd like to meet a human who makes it all seem clear, to work out all these cycles and why I'm standing here. I'm falling over and over and over and over again now, calling over and over and over and over again now. Running through my life right now, I don't regret a thing. Things I do just make me laugh and make me wanna drink. I'd like to meet a madman who makes it all seem sane, to work out all these troubles and what there is to gain. I'm falling over and over and over and over again now, calling over and over and over and over again now. Projecting what I want is always hard to know, but when it comes between my sides, I'll let the damage show. I'd like to meet a spaceman who's got it going on, sailing through the stars at night until our world is gone. I'm falling over and over and over and over again now, calling over and over and over and over again now, over and over and over and over again now, calling over and over and over We always have a choice, or at least I think we do. We can always use our voice. I thought this to be true. We can live in fear, extend ourselves to love, or we can fall below, or lift ourselves above. Fear can stop you loving. Love can stop your fear. Fear can stop you loving. But it's not always that clear. I always try so hard to share myself around, but now I'm closing up again, drilling through the ground. Fear can stop you loving. Love can stop your fear. Fear can stop you loving. But it's not always that clear. I'd love to give myself away, but I find it hard to trust. I've got no map to find my way. Amongst these clouds of dust, fear can stop you loving.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome, willkommen, bienvenue et bienvenidos. And thank you for coming to the 4th annual Ghosn and Dieter Zetsche press conference. I'm Rachel Conrad. I'm the communications director for the Renault-Nissan Alliance. And I'm just going to go over the ground rules really quickly here. Everything today is on the record. You should have the press release already, but everything our executives say will be on the record. I want to ask you to take questions in English only, please, and the answers will be in English just to maximize the number of people who have full comprehension of the answers. I'm also asking you to please ask one question at a time. We have 2 hostesses, one on either side. Please make eye contact with them or me and my colleague Jörg Hova, who will select you for the questions. That's it. Now I'd like to welcome Ghosn and Dieter Zetsche. Thank you.
In 2010, Germany's premium car maker Daimler and the French-Japanese car group Renault-Nissan Alliance joined forces. The companies announced several projects focused around increasing efficiency in Europe, but the partnership quickly took on a global scope and is now the most productive cross-cultural and international collaboration in the automotive industry. Renault supplies Daimler with co-developed fuel-efficient small diesel powertrains for the Mercedes-Benz A and B class. At the same time, Daimler adapted its 4-cylinder diesel engine and 7-speed automatic gearbox for the Infiniti Q50, which has been on sale since fall 2013. The first complete vehicle resulting from the cooperation is the Mercedes-Benz Citan, jointly developed and manufactured by Renault and on sale since 2012. In 2014, Daimler and Renault begin selling the next generation smart and Twingo city cars developed together on a shared platform. 2015 marks the debut of the Infiniti Q30, leveraging the Mercedes-Benz front-wheel drive architecture. Daimler and Renault are also working on a direct injection turbocharged small gasoline engine family. The first application of the engines are expected in vehicles from 2016 onwards. The cooperation has also expanded in the commercial vehicle business, with the cross-supply of light commercial vehicles on sale now in Japan since 2013. In a major new step, Daimler and Nissan announced that they would jointly manufacture next-generation Infiniti and Mercedes-Benz vehicles in a new joint plant in Nissan's manufacturing complex in Aguascalientes, Mexico, accelerating a strategic cooperation that keeps expanding, for the benefit of both Renault-Nissan and Daimler. The project portfolio between Daimler and Renault-Nissan keeps growing. The 2 companies have only one rule: consider all win-win projects that drive customer value while maintaining clear brand differentiation.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to our regular meeting. It may be hard for you, even for us, to believe, but this cross-cultural, cross-company relationship is now in its 5th year. It looks like it was yesterday. Today, Dieter and I want to update you on the progress we have made, progress that has really gone well beyond our initial expectations back in 2010. We launched this cooperation with 3 projects in Europe. Today we have 12 major projects in Europe, in Asia, in North America, and there are more to come. When you start a relationship like this, you always take some risk. Will your teams work well together? Are we going to be really productive? Are we going to be really efficient? And certainly there are plenty of recent examples in our industry that show how challenging these cross-cultural, cross-company partnerships can be, despite the theoretical opportunities, the good intention, and the grandiose statements. In our case, it has gone remarkably well. We said it many times, this is not a marriage. I would say we are more like corporate friends with benefits. And the list of benefits keep growing. Our first co-developed car went on sale in Europe last month, the stylish all-new Renault Twingo city car. Daimler will soon begin selling its all-new smart cars developed on the same platform. By sharing this rear-wheel drive platform and creating very distinct and compelling vehicles, we are able to offer more value, more choice, more innovation to our customers. Development of this architecture involved teams from both Renault and Daimler. They have established a successful template for how we will jointly develop projects in the future. A few years ago, many of you questioned how we could differentiate designs of these small cars of the same shared platform and stay true to their respective brands. I think you'll agree we've done just that. The initial reviews of both cars have certainly been very positive. For example, the guys at Top Gear recently uploaded the Twingo, describing it as, I quote, a genuinely different approach to design and engineering that has brought real dividend, not just in being different for its own sake. In a way that also described the Alliance-Daimler relationship. It's different, it's innovative, and it's bringing real dividends. Would you agree, Dieter?
Indeed I do, Carlos. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bienvenue from me as well, especially to our guests from Germany who are joining us here instead of celebrating the Day of German Unity back home. Of course, the fall of the Berlin Wall 25 years ago was one of the most meaningful events in recent history, certainly for Germany, and certainly one of the luckiest moments for Germany. Even though we at Renault-Nissan and Daimler did not unify, we do also have a strong spirit of unity. The press even attributes romantic feelings to our relationship. Carlos, can you imagine? To quote a recent headline, Renault boss learns to love the star. I always knew the French had exquisite taste. All of this shows our corporate friendship with benefits, as Carlos said, I'm only quoting, is not only getting closer, it's a long-term commitment. The past 4.5 years have clearly demonstrated that our relationship has both a very solid foundation and a shared passion, our enthusiasm for cars. That is the engine of our cooperation and an engine running at full speed. You can see the results at the show here. Be sure to take a close look at the new Renault Twingo and our all-new Smart 42 and 44. These are the first vehicles we have fully developed together from scratch. They not only prove our business case, but significantly strengthen it. We've shown we can realize the benefits of shared investment and still preserve very distinct brand identities and characters. Forecasts predict the micro car market will grow by about 38% by 2020. With our new cars, we are very confident that we can gain a very substantial piece of this cake. Our smart cars will arrive in late November, just in time for holiday shopping, but I have to warn you, in spite of their unique measurements, they might not fit under a Christmas tree. Still, they will fit in basically every parking lot, and sometimes smart drivers, especially here in France, are even known to elevate their creative parking efforts to an art form. We see the same tremendous growth potential in our compact cars. As we do in our new city cars, in fact, they already are a big success. We have sold a total of more than 800,000 of our new generation of compact Mercedes worldwide. CLA sales have exceeded our expectations. By the end of August, they have already eclipsed the 100,000 mark. In the US, the CLA has a conquest rate of more than 80%. That even beats womanizers like Alain Delon. Our new B-Class had its premiere on the eve of this motor show. The new model shows that fine cars like a fine Bordeaux improve with age. We expect to build on the success story of our premium compact cars with the addition of a fifth family member, the CLA Shooting Brake. Meanwhile, and that's why I'm talking about that, our next generation of premium compact cars is already on the starting blocks. We will jointly develop this new generation with Infiniti. What does that mean in practice? The vehicles will be developed by a joint team primarily composed of German and Japanese engineers. The team will be co-located on 3 continents and led by 2 dedicated chief engineers from Daimler and from Nissan. Recently, the first Japanese team members already arrived at our development center in Sindelfingen. This team will create a joint architecture for a new generation of compact cars. This common basis considers the technical requirements of both companies and is at the same time highly flexible. It can accommodate various modules and allows us to build entirely different vehicles. This will enable us to cut development costs and leverage synergies. Again, we are building vehicles with an unmistakable, unique brand identity. A Mercedes is and will remain a Mercedes, and the same goes for Infiniti. This project will not only include joint development, but also joint production. Among other sites, we will manufacture our next generation of compact in our new jointly owned plant in the Mexican city of Aguascalientes. By the way, the literal translation of Aguascalientes means hot waters, and I promise after we launch production in 2017, that town will also be famous for Carros Calientes, our hot cars. And that's another point on which Carlos and I wholly agree.
Absolutely. Aguascalientes project, is one of the biggest and most significant in our growing portfolio. Biggest in terms of potential volume and also in number of derivatives. We're not going to release details of the volume or derivatives today, but you will see our progress on the auto show circuit over the next several years. I want to note that given our high volume expectations and the global market for these vehicles, they will be assembled on 3 continents, at plants in Mexico, Germany, Hungary, the UK, and in China. As Dieter noted, our engineering teams will work closely as a joint team, as will the Daimler and Alliance purchasing teams. This is critically important because of the requirement for a high level of local content for these vehicles. This is the same process we used successfully for our initial project to develop the Twingo and smart cars. It is the next big step in our cooperation, which already includes several other significant projects that are benefiting Renault, Nissan, and Daimler. We continue to supply each other with powertrains. Last month, Renault began supplying diesel engines for the new Mercedes-Benz C-Class sedan and Vito van. Renault also is providing 3-cylinder gasoline engines for the Smart 4.4 and 4.2. And in the US state of Tennessee, Nissan and Daimler are jointly producing engines for the European version of the Infiniti Q50 sports sedan and the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. We also have just announced today a contract to supply Nissan NV350 commercial vans to Daimler's Mitsubishi Fuso truck and bus unit for export to the Middle East starting next year. And as I indicated earlier, there are many more projects to come. To track the level of activity between the Alliance and Daimler, internally we measure the annual revenue from goods, assembly, investments, and royalties. This is the revenue that's invoiced between the Alliance and Daimler. Based on project underway and planned, we expect that annual revenue between the companies to more than double in the next 6 years. I'd like to wrap up my comments with a few thoughts on why this cooperation has worked so well. There are the business reasons, of course. By spreading our cost of development, procurement, and manufacturing over more units, we can offer more competitive vehicles that are better positioned to take on our larger competitors when they exist. Our partnership has accelerated the time to market for significant vehicle launches and has been an obvious strategic advantage for Renault, Nissan, and Daimler. But this is a complicated endeavor. It requires the right attitude, cooperative spirit among all involved to make it work. At the top, Dieter and I share a mutual respect. We maintain an attitude that everything is on the table. There are no sacred cows. We also strive to maintain a simple, clear approach to what we need to do. To overcome the usual obstacles in combining teams from different companies and different cultures and different sensitivities, we always focus on concrete projects with specific milestones and specific and pragmatic deliverables. The team's ultimate goal is clear: to create higher value vehicles for our customers. Our process is disciplined and methodical. We have monthly cooperation committee meetings of Renault-Nissan and Daimler senior executives, which often include the two of us. The committee's role is to resolve differences and make decisions. And most importantly, we insist on going forward only with projects in which both sides see clear benefits. When one side concludes a project is unacceptable, there is no drama or animosity. We just move on to the next opportunity where both sides can benefit. This high level of cooperation and respect and the global scale of our projects ensure our collaboration will continue to grow. We expect to remain partners, very good friends, with a lot of benefits for a long time.
Thanks again, Carlos. I'm in full agreement that one cannot underestimate the so-called soft aspects of cross-company, cross-continental, and cross-cultural cooperation such as ours. What obviously works exceptionally well across cultures is the humorous nickname of our annual press conference, the Carlos and Dieter Show. We take this as a compliment. Still, we are both smart enough to see our future definitely in the car biz and not in the show biz. That's likely the best explanation for why the fan base of our cooperation continues to grow. I see three main reasons for our success. First, we have more and more exciting stories to tell. Most importantly, we deliver to our promises. Step by step, we are bringing our ongoing projects to conclusion, from the exchange of components to the co-development of products, all the way to the commercialization of technologies like the future fuel cells. Second, there's no prima donna. Our teams are equals. It doesn't matter if an idea originates in Germany or in France or in Japan. The important thing is that it makes sense for all parties involved. And third, Renault, Nissan, and Daimler bring together 325 years of automotive expertise. This, along with the different perspectives of our people, result in an almost infinite source of ideas. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust in the past 50 minutes, Carlos and I got at least two take-home messages across. Our global cooperation has strong backing at all levels, from our board of management teams to our engineers, be they in Paris, Stuttgart, or Yokohama. And probably most importantly, our cooperation has not just delivered as promised, but even more than expected. Carlos and I are more than confident in this cooperation. Many things are possible, and we can assure you that the results of our collaboration will continue to be exciting. Now we look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
I'm Jörg Hove. When we start the question and answer session. There's already one who wants to begin, please. A mic, please. A mic here.
Thank you, Paul Eisenstein from The Economist, the Detroit Bureau, and others. How much further can you go? What level do you see taking yourself, especially at a time of such dramatic change in the auto industry? And will you be looking to bring in the individual partners that each of you have separately? Dieter, for example, you have a relationship with Tesla. Do these people start coming in so that the circle becomes even bigger with the potential that they bring?
Well, Paul, most recently our strategy teams have sit together and looked into the scope of both companies, of basically any automotive company, and try to discuss exactly that question. What are potential areas of cooperation and what are no potential areas of cooperation? Of course, there are some legal requirements which restrict the scope of our cooperation. And we did this exercise first, both of us on our own, and then we came together and looked at our sheets and compared them, and surprisingly or not surprisingly, they looked almost identical. So it was a very easy exercise to agree on a common scope which goes very close to our entire scope we deal with in our companies. And the areas where we think we should not look into for common activities are very limited, very small, and agreed upon. And that still means we will not start anything just to do something together, but only when we see clear benefits for 2 or 3 parties involved. And that has been the principle, continues to the principle, and therefore very much is possible for the future still. We have accomplished much more than at least I expected 4.5 years ago, but there's more to come.
Well, if I can add something to what Dieter said, I think your question was, how much can we go? We don't know. We don't know because we're moving all the time. I must say that today I see more opportunity than I was seeing 2 years ago or 4 years ago. Because during our discussion, we're discovering a lot of opportunities. We're discovering challenges on which we can help each other. So I would say it's a kind of work in progress. There is one thing which is absolutely important to both of us, is to say cooperation has nothing, it's nothing forced. It is really a win-win, where every opportunity comes to the table. I don't think 4 years ago we would have envisioned that we would do a common plan together in Mexico and have Infiniti and Daimler working on the same platform. I don't think it was on the cards 4 years ago. Today it's possible. Now, if you ask me today, are certain things possible, I would tell you probably no. But depending on the evolution of our industry and the evolution of the technology, maybe in 3 years down the road, we can come to the conclusion that this is something possible. So as long as we keep this spirit of being very pragmatic, of a win-win, everything is on the table, no hard feeling when a project is rejected, I think we're going to continue to advance and we're going to see more projects from both of us. Look, it's very open. I never told Dieter, I don't want cooperation with X, Y, and Z to be brought to the table. For example, let me give you a specific example. There was an existing cooperation between Daimler and Ford on fuel cell. So when we decided to join forces on fuel cell, we didn't say we don't want Ford. We say, look, you're coming with Ford, fine. This is a cooperation mainly between the Alliance and Daimler. If you have another party joining within the same spirit, there is no problem. So there is absolutely no taboo on this, as long as the main interlocutors are ourselves.
Carlos asked me for lunch to meet a Chinese partner he was familiar with, introduce us and see if we can do things together. So very easy, and when it makes sense, we continue. If not, we leave it as is.
So we have the next question down there. Mike is already there. It's Ed Taylor from Reuters.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much. There has been in the alliance a stronger bond between Mercedes-Benz and Infiniti, but recently we've seen some executives from the Nissan and Infiniti side depart. How has this impacted the pace or the scope of ambitions of cooperation, if at all? And the second question is just, you mentioned the revenues would double between you two companies in the next 6 years. What is that revenue figure? Thanks very much.
Well, obviously, we will not share numbers for a lot of reasons.
But we can answer. The revenue is half of what it will be in 3 years.
I mean, frankly, I didn't think about it, but no, I'm going to tell you why we don't share revenue, because then the next question is how does it show in your account? And frankly, what we don't want is getting into an accounting exercise. This is more, we're trying to give you a trend about what we're going. It's growing. Now, the relationship between Infiniti and Daimler, well, obviously, this is growing, and it's totally normal that it's growing. But I don't want you to think that because it's growing between Infiniti and Daimler, it's on detriment of the cooperation between Renault and Daimler, or even between Nissan as a group and Daimler. Again, we are judging by opportunity, not by brand. We are mainly looking at very specific projects, and in function of the win-win, we decide on this project. And I can tell you that the projects of the future are very well balanced. They are not concentrated into the cooperation between Infiniti and Daimler. There are a lot of projects with Renault, there are a lot of projects with Nissan, and hopefully it will continue this way.
And of course, it's a cooperation between companies and teams, and it's certainly helpful that Carlos and I, for instance, get along very well. But this is a cooperation between Renault, Nissan, and Daimler. And when people have left at Nissan, people have left at Daimler as well. And this does not affect the progress of our projects. Then new people are coming to the party and will just continue with the same spirit.
Okay, next one is the guy sitting next to Ed.
Hello, I'm Gilles Guillaume from Reuters. I've got two questions, one for Carlos Ghosn and another one for Mr. Zetsche. The first question would be on Renault engines aboard the C-Class. I understand they are being made in Cléon. Can you give us elements on volumes and prospects perspectives of Renault engines aboard Mercedes cars, maybe larger ones? And the second questions will be would you consider replicating what you've been doing on the small smart Twingo platform on other segments for the smart brand, such as a very small crossover? Thank you.
Okay, so the first question is for me. It's going to be very simple. We usually don't share numbers, but what I can tell you, because if this is the meaning of your question, is Cléon is already, if I add the work that Cléon develops for Nissan plus the work that Cléon develops for Daimler, I can tell you that more than 50% of the production of Cléon is for Renault partners. This is how it plays. So it's a win-win for everybody. So 50% of the employment, 50% of the capacity, 50% of everything at Cléon, which is the largest powertrain plant of Renault, is dedicated to the partner. This is the benefit. And the fact that, and we're going to continue. That means, again, I'm not going to give you any information which is not the object of a decision, but we still have a lot of projects to continue to supply and develop the supply of powertrain for the different partners of Renault.
I was not supposed to answer to the first question, but I would only like to add that these engines are, as just confirmed, built in a Renault plant, but they are a mutual further development on the foundation of the Renault engine, which is now fulfilling all the specific requirements of Mercedes as well. As far as the continuation on our cooperation with Smart, at that point of time, we are doubling the portfolio of Smart from 1 to 2. And therefore, this is even bigger expansion than the portfolio growth at Mercedes. And we will introduce these vehicles in through the market and are very confident about the future success. There's no current decision about further members to this family, but as Carlos said before, we don't know about the future and what it will bring.
Okay, next one is here in front. Yes, please.
Hi, Bengt Halverson with High Gear Media. Why do the electric versions of the new Twingo and Smart use different battery technology? And can we expect more sharing of battery electric and plug-in hybrid components between the two companies in the near future?
Actually, we use in the smart electric drive a motor which is Renault-based, so there is sharing, and of course this might grow.
Yeah, and there is no Twingo electric, so we share the motor, but there is no other version. That means there is a smart electric, and that's it.
Okay, next, Rachel.
Rebecca Eisert from Wirtschaftswoche Germany. I'd like to know if there are any plans to cooperate in new mobility concepts like car sharing or new taxi services, or if Renault-Nissan likes to join in Car2Go maybe.
We have not had, to my understanding, discussion on that one, but again, I wouldn't exclude it.
You know, why not? I mean, it's a good suggestion. Thank you for making it. We have so many other. We have so many other projects, and we try usually to concentrate on where the big opportunities are for the two companies. But we're not excluding anything.
Yep, right here, third row. Thank you.
Dorothy Champa, Bloomberg News. Mr. Ghosn, when you started the corporation, you said you were expecting cost savings of around 2 billion euros for each of you. Since the corporation has expanded so much, can you give us a new figure, or how much has it exceeded your expectations? Thank you.
Well, we can say that it's going to be higher than 2 billion, that's for sure. I don't think today we're ready to share another number or order of magnitude. At the beginning, we felt compelled to give you a number because we didn't want you to think that it was a small, conservative corporation, extremely limited. We gave you the 2 billion to tell you, look, this is a sizable corporation. This is something which is going to be significant both for Daimler and for the lines. Well, today, we don't need to share more the numbers because it is something which is significant, and it's going to be a much, much bigger number than the 2 billion. But the reason for which we shared the 2 billion at the beginning is we didn't want you to think that this is just something marginal or something which is an annex of our other corporations.
Next question, please. If there is any. Yes. Christian Hetzner from Crane.
Hello. First of all, I was trying to get some understanding when the decision came about building A, B, and other combat cars in Valmet. You would have thought initially that there would be a perfect opportunity to build some of these cars in France at Renault plants where capacity utilization is possibly not there where it could be. Why hasn't there been any Mercedes or other Daimler vehicles built so far in France?
I think that's simple to answer. Valmet obviously has a history of building different vehicles for OEMs, and therefore their equipment is highly flexible and tuned to do that. Renault plants, Mercedes plants, Nissan plants are very much specialized for the vehicles which they are supposed to build, and not ready to build any other vehicle just like that. So that was the only reason. Otherwise, of course, if, and I don't know, if there would have been excess capacity, we would have loved to use it.
Yeah. Let me maybe answer further this question. I mean, in a lot of cases where we build cars for partners, we announce, as you know, Renault has announced that it will be building Nissan Micras in Flins, and Renault announced it's going to bringing some light commercial vehicle for Fiat in Sandouville, and has a contract also to build Opel also in Sandouville. In many of these cases, the proposal come from the person who needs cars and usually doesn't have the capacity. Okay? Which means that the choice is I have to invest to create new capacity, or I can find somebody who can build these cars for me. Usually that's the approach, which means that for us to concentrate our effort and to have some success, we need to look at who needs capacity, and for whom it may make a lot of sense that instead of investing more in additional capacity somewhere, you can have immediately capacity available in a way which is competitive. And we know that, and if it ever makes sense in the future, for the moment it doesn't make sense for any one of us, we will use eventually cross-manufacturing, because that's what you're talking about. But I don't want you to think that this is something which we are obsessed with, or that is something that we are avoiding. It's business as usual. If it makes sense for both of us, we'll do it.
And just since you said that this is a win-win cooperation for both of your partners, and clearly you're using that for the MFA vehicles at Mercedes, would you imagine that there would be a win-win solution where you could work together on rear-wheel drive architectures for larger Mercedes sedans?
As I said before, when we looked into our total portfolio, of course, this was part of the consideration, and we did not see any roadblock not to investigate these possibilities. And we did studies, and so far we didn't come up with a feasible business case. If the result would be a different one, the outcome would be different. Very simple.
Lindsay Chappell next.
Thank you. When you announced the car development project for Aguascalientes this year, you also alluded to additional investments that you were making in componentry on other continents, and you just earlier referred to that again. I think you said components in China and Europe, Mexico and other places. Can you tell us more about what you're talking about there? What other incidental investments does the Aguascalientes project entail?
Well, we have decided and meanwhile realized, as was mentioned before, a common engine production in Decatur, Tennessee. And this is a potential source of engines for Mexico. And we are just looking into the vertical integration, which we want to and have to accomplish in Mexico in order to be flexible about logistic streams of these vehicles from and to whatever places. And we are not finalized with these investigations, but that might include additional investment in components in Mexico or in NAFTA as well.
Okay, next question. So in front here, please. The lady here in the front. Could you pass on the mic? Thanks.
When is going to begin the construction of the Nissan Caliente's new plant?
Well, next year.
Next year when?
Well, we cannot tell you exactly when, because we are still working on the definition of the process, which takes some time. So, as you know, in this kind of project, we often have to make the announcement soon enough before everybody knows it, before you make the announcement, which means that you didn't finalize all the definition of the project when you announce it, and that's what we are doing now. But what I can tell you is it will start in 2015.
Okay, any other questions? Oh yeah, Justin Hyde.
As you look forward into your planning, which do you see as the greater pull at the moment, the regulatory push for fuel economy or consumer demand for it?
The what?
When you look when you're doing your forward planning,
yeah,
into future models,
yeah,
do you see the regulatory push for fuel economy outpacing the consumer demand for greater fuel efficiency, or vice versa?
You're talking only about fuel efficiency?
Yes.
No, I think without any doubt the regulatory element is much more clear and driving a lot of our decisions anyway, much more than consumer demand. On other things, consumer demand obviously is driving everything we do, but in the case of fuel efficiency and the case of emissions, the regulatory evolution is a really first factor of influence on our research and advancement.
Total agreement, with the only addition that when it comes to trucks, it's different as far as CO2 is concerned, because there the customer asks for fuel-efficient vehicles because it directly plays into the cost of ownership, and that's a different situation, but in cars, it's just as Carlos said.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we are limiting ourselves to the regulatory. In fact, we're going beyond it. Because if we were limiting ourselves on the regulatory, we would not develop zero emission. So we're developing zero emission because we want to be ahead of what's coming, and which, in our opinion, is going to continue to move into this direction.
Okay, next one. Done. So we have one here and second down there.
Hi, Sharon Carty from Autoblog. A lot of times in the past, we've seen alliances fall apart because big personalities, there's lots of egos, and you both say that there's no egos here. How much of this success of the alliance is dependent on the two of you versus sort of a systematic acceptance with all of your other executives? So if either of you were to leave and move on someplace, would this alliance continue?
Well, it's obvious it cannot work without us. You agree?
Of course, as
we're both indispensable to the development. I mean, we have to agree on this one.
Of course, as rightfully said, there are no egos in this cooperation involved. But I would say in the first 2 years, probably it was really dependent on their cooperation among the two of us and our interference in our organizations. I think it's becoming more and more self-sustainable. And I'm very, very confident that if ever one of us would decide not to continue on his job, the cooperation would continue.
Well, I must say that, like in many things, individuals are important, at least at the beginning of the process. But then after this, if we do our job very well, companies and institutions and process are established, and particularly a mindset is created, which hopefully and I think reasonably should go way beyond individuals.
Do you have details about the Aguascalientes 2 technology that you will use? It could be the same of Nissan, or you will use different suppliers or infrastructure for the new plant?
For the new plant, what we're trying to do is take the best out of both companies. And we're trying to force this process, Dieter and I. Every time, it's normal, and two-car company engineers have a tendency to say, if I do it my way for my product, it's going to be much better. So if you do this, you'll end up with two plants side by side on the same land, which obviously is not the purpose of the project. The purpose of the project is to combine forces to try to make the best out of the knowledge that Daimler has accumulated and the knowledge that Nissan has accumulated for Infinity. So in a certain way, I can tell you that it's not going to be either or. It's not going to be Nissan process or Daimler process. It's going to be a combination of both. It's going to be a comparison of what are the best practices, which obviously we are expecting a lot from it, because I think when Daimler sit down with Nissan engineering, process engineering, they're going to help us maybe eliminate, simplify, make better certain things. And I suppose that it is the other way around. So we can benefit not only at the level of this plant, but we can benefit at the level of other plants about what we're learning from each other.
But in this case, it's all new. Do you have another example with Daimler, Renault, Nissan similar, or is it really new, the Aguascalientes 2 cooperation?
First of all, I can specifically confirm what Carlos just said, that we already by now are planning to integrate some of these new findings which we have together into our existing plants in Rastatt, in Kecskemét, and in China, in order to move the entire cooperation forward.
Question about connectivity. From where we stand today, moving right through to full autonomous vehicles at some point in the future. Have you begun collaborating together on that, and could we get to a stage where you're using common systems, common suppliers, even common usage of the features?
I mean, let me make one point. It was said that we started with 3 projects and that we are today already running 12 major projects together. And we said as well that the cooperation is not on its own sake. It's to serve a purpose to make all of our companies, the 3 companies, better companies. And therefore, we continue to believe that it's very, very important to stay focused and to make sure that every one of these projects we are agreeing to start will be a success. And therefore, certainly we find a number of areas where it probably would make sense to work together, and we might get there, but we want to prioritize and do what we do right. And therefore, again, we are both active in this field of autonomous driving, and I can very much foresee that someday we're sitting together and sharing things there, but step by step.
Okay, next question's over there.
One of your major competitors has just announced that it's ready to sell the first fuel cell, what seems to be the first fuel cell coming to the market. Does this bring a sense of urgency to your 2 companies to speed up what you're doing in this area, or it's just one project more?
Nissan has a successful and well-known history of developing this technology forward. I think this applies at least to the same extent for Daimler. We have, as you know, 3 years ago, sent 3 vehicles around the globe with fuel cell technology working very well. So the issue is not at that point of time how to come up with a technology which satisfies customer needs. They are ready for the market as far as the usability of this driveline is concerned, and we have this technology together. The issue is how to drive costs down, and the issue is how to set up an environment in which you can operate these vehicles, which is mainly in hydrogen infrastructure. And there we do believe success lies in alliances, in joining forces. This is not something where you are first to market and you now can run away and sell hundreds of thousands of vehicles and the others look stupid that they can't do that. It's something where you have to cooperate to set the stage for this industry change altogether. And we are participating by developing the technology. We are on 3 continents working to get this infrastructure being built up. But whether you introduce the next stage, we have sold 200 of these vehicles, Nissan has, and whether Toyota now, I don't know, will sell 100 or 1,000 vehicles next year, does not move the needle. The important thing to get the whole process forward, and this is not that much a competitive issue, but an industry issue, and we are playing our part there.
You know, if your remark is about technology, we're not worried because we're already developing a lot this technology. We know where we are. We feel good about it. We have benchmark at the level of the industry, so we're ready. The question is mass marketing. Well, when we look at the situation in which all the markets are today, we don't see how you can mass market fuel cells. Well, we just don't see it. So if somebody can, we will, because we have the technology, the cars are ready. So I don't think we're going to be caught by surprise. We're still questioning about how you're going to mass market fuel cell cars. Because I mean, today the Alliance is the biggest producer and seller of electric cars. We're at more than 176,000. That's what the numbers start to be mass marketing numbers. We're not talking about selling 500 cars a year or 1,000 cars a year. And still one of the biggest obstacle in front of us is the infrastructure. And electric infrastructure is much more simple and common than fuel cell infrastructure. And this is the main obstacle. So I don't think we're going to be caught by surprise there because the technology is ready. The cars are ready. We're just, and we are cooperating. This is a cooperation between Daimler, the Alliance, and Ford also joining. The question is, how you're going to mass market these cars, knowing that I understand that there are, 2 or 3 hydrogen stations in the United States and practically 1 or 2 in Japan and all this kind of stuff. I mean, how are you going to market them? I'm not criticizing. I just say, let's look at how this is going to happen. And if this happens, we're ready.
Okay, is there one last question? No? Okay. So, Paul, do you want to ask one last question? One last question.
Let me just ask you to pull together the issue. We've been talking a lot about fuel cells and autonomous and individual elements. As you look forward, how significant will it be for the alliance between the companies? Will green technology, powertrain technology, become perhaps the most important thing you see going forward 5, 10 more years? Will autonomous driving, or will these both be, these brave new worlds, will they become as important to the alliance going forward as mass producing or jointly developing and producing small luxury vehicles?
Let me give you the alliance point of view first. You're talking about 2 different sets of technology driven by completely different constituents. Everything which is around powertrain, emissions, fuel efficiency is driven by regulation. We said it. Obviously, it's a requirement of consumers, but first it's driven by regulation. We want to make sure that we will meet US regulation 5 years down the road, Chinese regulation 10 years down the road, European regulation, whatever they're going to be 15 years down the road. That's what drives us. And we want, if possible, anticipate on this. While everything which comes to autonomous cars or connected cars, this is driven by consumer. Completely different issue. That means in one case, if you don't meet regulation, well, you're going to pay fines, and there's going to be a handicap for you, and you have a problem of image. But the autonomous cars, for example, or the connected cars, if you don't develop them strongly, you may not sell cars at all. So it's not a question of what is more important. They are a completely different set, and we need to dedicate appropriate resources for all of them. It's not either or.
And powertrain definitely by today is a very substantial piece of our cooperation among all 3 partners. And as long as it's an automobile, we can assume that it will continue to have a powertrain of whatever kind. And this will be a major part of the total value of an automobile in the future as well. And therefore, whatever technology it might be, I'm sure it will be a substantial part of our cooperation.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here. The executives will be kind of walking out slowly if you want to ask them one last question or get a soundbite in French, German, Arabic, Portuguese, English, whatever you'd like. Thank you very much, and this concludes our event.
Gentlemen, one more.